Good morning and thank you for joining us. The Middle East peace process talks are on the verge of a breakdown after President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority defied the United States and Israel by taking concrete steps to join 15 international agencies. That's a move designed to gain the benefits of statehood outside the negotiation process. Abbas's action, which appeared to catch the American and Israeli officials by surprise, prompted Secretary of State John Kerry to cancel a planned return trip to the region today, in which he was expected to complete an agreement extending negotiations through 2015. We are joined in studio by Tal Shalev, I-24 News diplomatic correspondent. Good morning, Tal.
Good morning.
And by Ali Waqid, senior Middle East analyst for I-24 News as well. First, though, let's hear what U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had to say late last night.
As I said at the outset of my remarks, completely premature to draw any judgments about this at this point in time. And at this point in time, no agreement has been reached with respect to any prisoner, not even the ones that at this moment are at issue in terms of the transfer. The cabinet in Israel has to vote. I'm not sure exactly when that might take place or not. And so there is no agreement at this point in time regarding anyone or any specific steps. There are a lot of different possibilities.
We are joined via Skype by Steve Cates, I-24 News, Washington, D.C. correspondent. Steve, good morning to you.
Good morning, Al.
Okay, this seems to be completely going up in flames. We're going to start with John Kerry's latest remarks about the peace process or lack thereof. Any reaction in Washington? Is this a done deal? Is the State Department trying to do anything else to bring the two sides to the table?
Well, without a doubt, behind back doors, they certainly are. It was definitely unexpected for the Palestinians to do this, for Abbas to try to add these 15 other agencies. The bottom line, though, is they're in a difficult situation. It's, the Palestinians under Abbas have made the effort. There is one note, I don't know if it's a positive note, but certainly one note, is that Abbas did not go to the International Criminal Court. That would have been a much bigger concern, I think, for the Israeli government as well as the U.S. government, because then that would open the door for the court to rule on the West Bank settlements and things of that nature. So it could be worse than it is.
I love the optimistic note. Do stay with us, Steve, throughout this segment. We're also joined from Ramallah by Dimitri Diliani, member of the Fatah Revolutionary Council in Ramallah. Dimitri, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Reactions in Ramallah to this move by Abbas, was this something that was pushed by the people of the West Bank? What is behind it?
What's behind it is that there was a deal struck between us and the Israelis through the American administration about releasing 104 prisoners, political prisoners of pre-Oslo time. And Israel did not honor, in return for our postponing and not canceling, postponing joining UN organizations. And Israel did not honor that agreement. The deadline was March 29th. It was extended till yesterday morning time. Israel still did not honor it. So we believe it's just natural. Why should anybody be surprised or think about the reactions? Everybody knows that after the 9 months postponement, that's where we're heading, especially in a time that Israel has deliberately derailed the peace process and deliberately postponed all important issues and deliberately avoided even discussing or answering any of the questions or the points at the table during what's so-called negotiations. So I don't know why people are surprised or why they're thinking of reactions. Everybody knew that this would happen from day one. And we still have 48 organizations and agreements that we will join. And that's most definite. This is a right to us as the state of Palestine, recognized state in the United Nations, and we will pursue that.
Okay, Dimitri, thank you. I want to take this to Tal Shalev, I-24 News diplomatic correspondent. Very harsh words, obviously, from the Palestinian Authority, but within the Israeli administration, a reaction to such a move by Abbas is going to be encountered by what?
Well, at this moment, I have to say the move doesn't necessarily signify the end of talks. There's still till the 29th of April, that's the deadline, the original deadline. And up until the 29th, Kerry will continue to try and extend negotiations. But the first thing is to try and ensure the fourth and final prisoner release by the Israelis. And this is the deadlock at this point. But I think one of the big problems with the Palestinian move yesterday was the lack of trust. The Israeli negotiators are saying this is not an end of talks. This is not yet a reason to break down talks. But it doesn't look good in the Israeli public. It doesn't, and this whole fiasco in the past 48 hours, it's been very dramatic. It just kind of takes out the good taste of the whole process. If this is such a big deal out of prisoners, and Abbas is threatening to go back to the UN and to the international agencies, this really shows how low the level of trust is between Israelis and Palestinians. And I really think if you go down on the street today and ask the average Israeli what does he think about the peace process, he just won't have anything to say, because it seems like this whole 9 months just blew up as a dream at this moment.
No, completely. And Ali Waqid, senior Middle East analyst for I-24 News, we were discussing slightly before the broadcast that when it comes to U.S. foreign policy, Steve is still with us, it seems like there was a lack of understanding throughout this last 9 months, but also in the last 48 hours. This, again, it's a flame that seems to be really hard to break down. What happened there?
Yeah, it's not new that the American seems once again not to understand really how things work. I do agree with Tal that this is not the end of the talks. I said, and I repeat, the Palestinians don't really have a choice to refuse the extension of the negotiations. But we should understand that the same feeling in the Palestinian street, it is amazing how it is the same in the Israeli. The Palestinians see that the last 9 months didn't bring anything beside more and more settlements, and Abu Mazen is in huge pressure from outside Fatah and from inside Fatah. We still remember what Mohammed Dahlan said last week, that Abu Mazen, with these negotiations, are leading the Palestinians to a collapse and to a disaster. Abu Mazen is hearing this. Abu Mazen is receiving demands from the Palestinian organizations, from the Palestinian street. Yesterday there were rallies in many of the Palestinian towns demanding President Abbas not to continue the talks if there is not a clear framework. And we should make it clear, it's not the fourth group of prisoners that was supposed to be released that brought the Palestinian Authority to take these unilateral measures. According to the Palestinians, the unilateral steps and measures were taken by the Israelis all along these talks, when every time there was a new housing project initiative, right. And this was a huge embarrassment for President Abbas. And the Palestinians feel that they have some game changer going to the international organizations, but this is not the end. This is not the end of this journey of Secretary of State Kerry. But the Palestinian says we are able also to take unilateral measures. Abu Mazen was backed up by the Arab Summit that said that they will understand if he try to change the game, and this is what he try to try this coming days.
In the coming days, I want to take us back, as Tal Shalev said, to the last 48 hours, because there was so much rumor, supposition, and ideas about the deal forming. We still have Steve Cates with us. The U.S. Secretary of State, John Kerry, was actually reportedly considering offering Israel a deal that would see the release of Jonathan Pollard. That's an American spy. He was convicted for spying for Israel. He's serving a lifetime sentence in the U.S. prison since 1987. In exchange, Israel would have released, or was supposed to release, 26 Palestinian prisoners, previously planned alongside additional a group of 400. Now, this is, it's a deal and a name put in the mix that gained much criticism around the region and also in the U.S. So it seems, Steve, you're still with us. First of all, we don't know if this name is still in the mix. It made so many big headlines here yesterday. What was the reaction in the United States over the course of the last 24 hours from the American public about releasing Pollard at all?
Well, interestingly enough, as far as the American public, not a lot yet. I mean, this is a case that goes back almost 30 years. Among intelligence agencies, it's been an ongoing source of contention. They don't want him released. They consider the fact that Israel, our closest ally, basically used him for a lot of spying. Just infuriates every administration's CIA director. In fact, George Tenet, the CIA director during the Iraq War, threatened to resign if he was released. However, Yael, We do know, as of last night, that Jonathan Pollard has declined to appear at the next parole hearing. I mean, the guy's set for a parole hearing in just a year. So this is kind of like a carrot for the Israelis to entertain. I think he's going to get released. If you have to ask, I think there's a very good likelihood he's going to get released. It's, again, parole hearings in a year from now, so he's served longer than most others in the same situation. In addition to that, there are former secretaries of state that have said he should have been released a long time ago. And I think it's at the point now where the American public could accept this.
But as you very rightfully mentioned, Steve, he's up for parole, although he waived that right before John Kerry canceled his trip, within 9 months. Steve, thank you for joining us from D.C. Tal, I want to start with you. Do we still have Dimitrios from Ramallah? I mean, Pollard's name in the mix. There's also criticism that actually is something that did not help these negotiations at all.
Yeah, well, Pollard was supposed to be the game changer, was supposed to be the sweetening pill for Netanyahu. And Netanyahu had a great political maneuver with bringing Pollard into the mix, because he knows that if he brings back Pollard, then it will be very difficult for the right-wing ministers inside his government to criticize any Israeli concession, because it would be considered such a big political gain. So on the one hand, it was brilliant from Netanyahu to bring it up. On the other hand, as time goes by, you can see the criticism growing also inside the Israeli government, talking about the price of releasing Pollard, if in any case he's supposed to be paroled in a year. And the other thing is that it created a situation inside the Palestinian Authority where they say, why does Netanyahu get the biggest prize of all, Jonathan Pollard, the biggest political gain? He will have the picture of him bringing home Jonathan Pollard, and we're not getting our heroes, especially Marwan Barghouti, who Abbas would like to have this. And this created a criticism inside the Palestinian public, and as time goes by, also in Washington, in Jerusalem, and in Ramallah.
And Dimitri from Ramallah, just still with us on the phone, was that indeed the case, that Barghouti, that was a request to, try and release Barghouti as well from an Israeli prison, because the Israelis were supposedly getting Pollard, of course, all on theory?
Well, no, we look at the issue as this is an Israeli, an American issue. It's none of our business what happens there. Marwan Barghouti for us is a political leader, excuse me, and freedom fighter. And we demand that he would be released, along with the other political prisoners as well. So we don't connect these two issues. These might be what you guys said, might on the feeling side of things, but as an official position, no, it's not.
Okay. Thank you, Dimitri from Ramallah. Ali Walker, just wondering, though, still out loud, when it comes to lopping Pollard into the mix and all of that making headlines yesterday, though, the Palestinian reaction would be either we want something else in return, or was it more to the, on the Palestinian side, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to get any kind of guarantee, which they didn't get, in terms of freezing the settlements, no?
Yesterday I heard an interesting version from the Palestinian that Pollard was not supposed to be released because the Palestinians are agreeing to extend or not to extend the negotiations. He was supposed to be on the table only when the framework reach a serious stage.
It's a much bigger
yes,
card.
Only when the hardcore issues were supposed to be clarified and reaching some settlement, and not in this interim stage where the negotiations are. So it is true that politically it was used in the Israeli media and Israeli public opinion, in the Israeli politics, in order to strengthen the prime minister. But according to my Palestinian sources and international, Pollard was not supposed to be released, of course, not before Passover, not before Leila Seder, and it was used in the Israeli political game. And this is why this was not that frustration in the Palestinian side. It is true that Palestinians tried also to take right over this story and to raise once again the issue of Marwan Barghouti. But what means for the Palestinians is that the Americans clarified that the next round of the negotiations, the hardcore issues will be seriously dealt, and they feel that the Israelis are managing the conflict and not trying to find solution to the conflict. They understand that with this current government, there won't be any serious breakthrough. They don't see Bennett, they don't see Danon allowing Netanyahu to go forward in these negotiations.
And Gazarov, really quickly, in terms of the Israeli administration,
There was a really interesting dynamic just because yesterday Netanyahu's officials were briefing again, like they were trying to minimize the deal, while Kerry is trying to bring the deal into the working. Netanyahu's officials were briefing how small a deal it is. It's not a freeze, it's just a strain. We are going to choose the prisoners, they're going to be women and they're going to be children. And this backlashed with the Palestinian Authority because they understood that this is basically a bluff. This is all a bluff, and Netanyahu is not giving anything forward.
A duck, it's a squeak.
Netanyahu is trying to quiet his internal criticism, but at the same time, he actually created this feeling in the Palestinian Authority that this whole deal is a bluff.
Is a bluff in that respect. And first of all, thank you both, Tal Shalev, Ali Waked, Dimitri from Ramallah, and Steve Cates. Let's hope to be optimistic and not bury this process altogether yet, as you guys said. When we get back, the British government orders a report on the Muslim Brotherhood's activities in the UK. Will Britain now join Egypt, Saudi Arabia in listing the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist group? We'll take a look at that. First, though, let's hear some more of this morning headlines. Morning, and it's I-24 News Morning Edition, where you should be. There is no peace still in the Middle East, but we are going to say hello and good morning to Yasmin K, who joins me in studio for the news you missed while scanning the headlines. Houthi Sinai is with us as well for the next segment that we'll keep you in suspense for. But Yasmin, yes, what do you have?
Well, okay, now April Fool's has passed, and our false announcement about the peace negotiations being successful was proved to be false. Here's some real news. I hope.
I wanted to fall for that one, but yes,
true. I was actually quite amusing because yesterday there were so many stories in the news that I weren't sure if they were April Fools or not.
That sounded right?
Yeah, that actually sounded right.
Okay,
I think there were actually quite a lot of kind of strange stories around.
But that's coming up in the next hour.
In the next segment, yes.
Okay.
So now this is a story in the Jerusalem Post about police confiscating ancient coffins from tomb raiders in Jerusalem. This sounds like a bit of an Indiana Jones style affair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there were tomb raiders in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean apparently some police saw suspicious activity in a car park late at night.
There are tombs in car parks?
Yes, well, it was basically some Palestinian looters were trying to sell the stolen tombs to Jewish buyers in the middle of the night. So they just kind of met in a car park, put these coffins out on the floor.
That's coexistence to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is coexistence.
Yes.
Okay.
So these tombs are from about 2,000 years ago. They're not apparently that rare. I mean, there have already been discoveries of several thousand of these tombs.
But in the region 2000 ain't that old, is it, right?
I guess not.
No,
I mean,
they're coffins, in fact.
Coffins, yes,
Coffins,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Taken from tombs containing remains of the deceased. Now, it's really fascinating in terms of the stuff that was discovered as well. I mean, in this J-Post article, it kind of details the burial rites they used to do. They used to actually take the body, put it away for a few months in a cave, and then they would transfer the remains into one of these sealed coffins, which had inscriptions on them, decorative features.
Lovely image for the morning.
Lovely image for the morning.
Yes.
Read the article. I'm
Moving
not
on
explaining
to
it. Moving on to something not rotting,
different.
decaying corpses. This is a big Washington Post report about the CIA's involvement in their notorious interrogation program. Now, the Senate Intelligence Committee has compiled the report. At the moment, it's classified, but some details have been revealed in the Washington Post report, which was picked up across all the media yesterday. This is about the severity of the interrogation methods the CIA used even, and also the fact that they actually took credit for finding or extracting information from prisoners that was actually willingly given prior to the investigations.
Prior to waterboarding?
So the CIA were basically overestimating the impact and effectiveness of their interrogation methods.
Right. No, terrifying to think. I mean, it's interesting that it's coming out now because I think after 9/11, for the course of the last decade or so, there was sort of, and Ruth, you probably agree, there's sort of an agreement within the American public of Georgia can be used and
everything,
go forth.
Everything you thought couldn't happen
has happened. And but now that that's coming up, it's interesting timing. Yes.
Yes. So waterboarding may not be.
We went from corpses to waterboarding. May not be used anymore. Yes.
I know. I'm afraid it's not getting any better with the next story. This is a horrible story about migrants who are being detained in Greece. As we know, it's been covered a lot, the fact that many people are trying to emigrate to Europe to seek asylum there. And the Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, have issued a report, damning report into the state that asylum seekers are being held in Greece. I mean, they're basically being held in facilities that are designed for people to be held for a few days. There are people being held there for months, in some cases even over a year. There's outbreaks of scabies, respiratory infections, a whole variety of disease.
That migrants, and the agreement of people to do that because they're trying to get out from wherever they are and get to. Yeah, that's terrifying.
In the article, there's actually a case of a 16-year-old boy from Afghanistan who actually jumped off the roof of one of these facilities in protest at his treatment. I mean, and they're not being fed properly. They're being. It's really horrible.
Horrible.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving on.
So. In New Mexico, this is a story that was picked up in The Independent, also widely covered elsewhere. There was a homeless camper was asked to vacate where he was camping by the police. And we can see in footage that he was actually shot and killed by the Albuquerque police.
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, not even a proper altercation. I mean, you can actually see the video. It's very disturbing footage where they talk to the guy. Apparently, he pulls out a knife. We don't see, and they shoot him in the back. He later died. Now, it turns out that in Albuquerque, they actually shoot more people than the New York police, which is 16 times larger.
That's insane. And you got to remember, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Santa Fe, those areas, they're very... I mean, you wouldn't expect it from those, from those states. Very, oh my God.
Yep. So there've been some protests. They started out relatively peacefully.
Was he Mexican origin?
No. I think he was American. It was a guy called James Boyd. I'm not 100% sure, but I have seen the footage.
Right.
So from what I can tell,
looks like almost, it's an assassination in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, he basically turned around. They said, "Do it." I think they shot like a stun gun at his feet, and then apparently he got out a knife, and they shot him several times. He later
died. Home of the brave
died.
and land of the free.
Yes. So these protests, like I said, they started off relatively peaceful on Sunday. By Monday, it's turned a bit more violent. Clashes between police and protesters. In one case, protesters tried to smash in the windows of a police car. So things are escalating, but obviously there's a lot of anger over.
No, interesting. I mean, very reminiscent of the Rodney King, case back in the early '90s that sparked. Ultimately that did change some of the police routines, but I wonder if that's going to happen.
I mean, the biggest riots in American
in Los Angeles, exactly.
Okay, so in Egypt, there's a story on the BBC about an anti-Sisi hashtag.
That's new.
On Twitter. Yes. So apparently the hashtag translates as vote for the pimp. It's been retweeted quite a few times.
Wow.
Yes. So Sisi is seen as the prime presidential contender. He's basically
I think we can agree that he's sort of he already won it before it even started.
Yes. It wasn't a surprise.
But that's a little bit of dissent.
That is a little bit of dissent.
It's not exactly like the cupcakes or whatever.
No,
the shapes of
Sisi and the little keychains, because he did reach almost papal status in Egypt in many ways, but now he's being pimped out.
Yeah, so people are saying that this is actually one of the only remaining arenas where you can actually express your dissent.
Okay.
If we have time, there's also a lighter story I wanted to
really
end
quickly.
with.
Yes.
Okay, so this possibly could be an April Fool's joke, but I did actually check this out, and it's been reported for at least a week or two prior to April Fool's. This is kind of gross. This is sex flights being offered in Las Vegas for people who wish to join the Mile High Club. Yes, for the price of I think it's about $700.
Looks better than my bedroom.
You can go on that, which is just horrible. I mean, it says it has a cleaning service that cleans every part of the aircraft after each flight. They change the sheets, pillowcases, and towels.
I have to say, it's better than walking into a bathroom stall in a plane and wondering who's been there before.
It's a little more expensive, though.
Yeah, it's slightly a little gross, though. I mean, you're only taking this flight for the purposes of joining the Mile High Club and paying $700.
Oh, God, honey, you're young. Yes. But thank you, Yasmin, for joining us on this hour with enlightening news, especially the last one. And we'll see you the next hour. British Prime Minister David Cameron ordered and has called for an urgent review of the Muslim Brotherhood's activities in Britain. This investigation is set to include an assessment by MI6, the British Foreign Intelligence Service, on how many senior Muslim Brotherhood leaders are based in the United Kingdom. The organization, which was founded in Egypt, is already banned in its homeland and is listed as a terrorist group in Saudi Arabia, Russia, Syria, and the UAE. Now, to learn more about this expected review, we're joined in studio by I-24 News senior editor Ruthie Sinai. Good morning to you.
Good morning, yeah.
And before we break it down, let's take a look at the following report.
Is the Muslim Brotherhood the next global threat? Following a ban in Egypt, Russia, and Saudi Arabia, the British government has ordered a report on the organization's activities in the UK. The review is set to determine the extent of extremist activity by Muslim Brotherhood leaders in Britain, as well as provide insight on the Muslim Brotherhood's ideology.
What I think is important about the Muslim Brotherhood is to make sure we fully understand what this organisation is, what it stands for, what its links are, what its beliefs are in terms of both extremism and violent extremism, what its connections are with other groups, what its presence is here in the United Kingdom. Our policy should be informed by a complete picture of that knowledge, and that's why I've commissioned this piece of work.
British Prime Minister Cameron also understands that any war on terror is an agonizing fight over narratives as well.
I think it's very important people understand that as a government we are obviously opposed to violent extremism, the violent extremism that we've seen on our streets, tragically in, for instance, that dreadful incident in Woolwich. But we're also a government that is opposed to extremism. We want to encourage people away from a path of extremism. We want to challenge the extremist narrative that some extreme Islamist organizations have put out.
Still, extremists tend to flourish when labeled as threats, and this potential government crackdown might miss its goal and will not ensure that the Arab Spring ends well.
Also joined via Skype by I-24 News London correspondent Jonathan Sashadari. Jonathan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Al.
Okay, I'm a bit confused because we're coming, you were here not long ago when, when Muslim wills or, the British law was inclined to to accept, not enshrine, but, Muslim Sharia law wills into practice, so to speak. And then we're looking at this type of a crackdown, which is not bound to go down well with the Muslim population, I'm assuming, in the UK, correct me if I'm wrong. But why did this come about now?
Well, Prime Minister David Cameron's asked Sir John Jenkins, the British ambassador to Saudi Arabia, to draw up this report on the Muslim Brotherhood's philosophy, values, and alleged connections with extremism and violence. And that's really the key there. It's the connections with violence and extremism that David Cameron and the British government is not keen to encourage. Also, there's been some pressure from the Gulf states who are very keen to make sure that the Muslim Brotherhood is seen as a terrorist organization. Egypt has classified it that way as well. And there is pressure on the UK not to allow Britain to become the hub of its organization for its activities worldwide. And in fact, David Cameron was shown some evidence that at the end of last year, some senior Muslim Brotherhood figures actually met in London in order to discuss worldwide strategy for the organization. So those things will be of great concern to David Cameron, also to the population in the UK. And that's why he's now putting in place some of the top figures from MI5 and MI6, the secret intelligence services, in order to find out exactly what the connections between the Brotherhoods and the UK are.
Interesting. Hopefully we'll have time to get back to it. But Ruthie, I want to ask you still, this is fascinating to me because the Muslim Brotherhood was actually, I think it's like their headquarters. They were they united and were born in London.
The Muslim Brotherhood actually was born in Egypt, you know what, to fight the British mandate in Egypt in the 1920s. Right. This goes back, has a history.
Back.
Yeah.
But they've been in the UK forever.
Yeah. But, let's not forget, besides their political arms, they do a lot of charity work. They do a lot of good work. That's always the problem with some of these more extreme organizations.
Then why now?
They have different shapes.
Yeah. Other than, the explanation of, they're a terrorist group, et cetera. Because I think, I'm assuming money's involved.
Well, Maybe.
Okay,
But
theorizing
I
here.
think what Jonathan alluded to earlier is more to the point, and that is that both Saudi Arabia and Egypt have now banned the Muslim Brotherhood, and they really, want to make sure that this is, across the board, that it doesn't come back to bite them from abroad. One of the people who's going to play a central role in this is Sir John Sawyer, I think his name is, who's head of MI6 now, used to be UK ambassador to Cairo, has very strong ties to the Mubarak regime people. And I'm assuming that's also going to influence the way this plays out, in terms of, because obviously Mubarak's people are no big fans of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Really?
The organization was, banned and its members were in jail and so on.
So no, that's might be part of the thing. Jonathan, if you're still with us, is this really coming a lot from pressure from other countries such as the UAE, such as Saudi Arabia, really pressuring the UK to do this now? Because again, I'm playing devil's advocate, it's not like the Muslim Brotherhood are a new phenomena in the UK.
Yes, it is assumed that pressure from those quarters is what's perhaps prompting David Cameron to do this, but it does fit in with his other policies in general when it comes to extremism. He, in that press conference that we just heard in the report, he did invoke the incident of the killing of Lee Rigby, who was stabbed to death in broad daylight after being run over by Islamists in the streets of London. And so he's trying very clearly to connect in the minds of Britons and people the world over the idea of Islamist extremism and the idea of terrorism and stabbings and killings.
Right.
So that's why he also wants to focus on this. And it's almost funny to say that the new Muslim Brotherhood headquarters in Great Britain, revealed back in January, is a sort of cramped flat on top of a disused kebab shop between a television repair shop and a hair salon in Cricklewood, which is a northwest London suburb of no great esteem. So how the mighty have fallen in some ways, but I think it's key that Cameron is now looking even at an organization that's basing itself somewhere like that and recognizing that, you don't have to be in charge of Egypt anymore in order to have the effect that he suspects they're having. And there is the suspicion that they were connected to that killing of the terrorists in Egypt only recently. And those sorts of things obviously have forced the current Egyptian to ask him to deal with this problem.
Jonathan, sadly all the time we have. Thank you for joining us. Ruthie, again, sadly all the time we have. Thank you for being with us in studio. When we get back, teaching German youth about the Holocaust, truly a delicate art form. We'll talk to an Israeli historian who seems to have successfully mastered it. But first, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Welcome back. It is still Wednesday, April 2nd, 2014. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News, where you should be. I am Stelia Elavi. Thank you for staying with us. Explaining the Holocaust, never an easy task. The challenge to convey the horrors of the Second World War to indifferent youth is even greater today, as fewer Holocaust survivors are left to share their stories. Surprisingly, the German youth seem eager to learn more about the nation's darkest chapter. Israeli historians tour schools across Germany and embark in frank discussions with local students about the Holocaust, immigration, and anti-Semitism in Germany, then and now. To hear more about the educating effort, we are joined, and very happy to be so, in studio by Historian-in-Chief at the Shem Olam Faith and the Holocaust Institute, Professor Gidon Greif. Professor Greif, thank you for being here with us this morning. I found this story in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz. I found it fascinating, I'll be honest with you, because I grew up in Germany. And I had a friend when I was 8 years old, Monica. And when I asked her, and I came from Israel, what she knew about the Holocaust, and this is, the late 70s, her response to me was, it was a war that we first won then lost. And that was it. When you go now to German youth in Germany, what do you encounter? What do they know before you start?
The amount of knowledge is immense, surprisingly.
Really?
Some German students, I would say, know much better than some Israelis that I know. It's surprising, I know.
Yeah.
And they are eager to know, and they have empathy and interest. They want to know and to understand the meaning and the responsibility.
The meaning and the responsibility, but you did describe in the article that I read that, it's the first encounter with the students, sometimes you get bizarre questions. You get questions such as, were Jews being conniving at the time? or I mean, you encounter that as well, correct?
Absolutely.
How do you combat that?
You have to supply good answers, never to lose your nerves, to be patient, and to be honest. And I am honest. By the way, some ask me whether I'm Jewish, which surprises me very much. Yes.
No, that is surprising. Okay.
And I can't remember any disturbance or any aggressive reaction. It's really it's a pleasant experience.
What is the curriculum? What do you talk to them about? And I mean, do you bring in personal experience, because you are the father of German Jewish? The son of German Jewish parents.
Of course, not necessarily. If I'm asked, I'm telling about my grandfather, who was a prisoner in Buchenwald concentration camp, about the sister of my grandmother, who was deported in 1943 to Auschwitz. I have representatives in the Holocaust.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm explaining to them, as a matter of fact, the most severe chapter in the Holocaust, which means the final solution, or in other words, Auschwitz and its death installations. I'm using a lot of pictures, a lot of photos, because I think that details are important as well, not only the general description. It's sometimes a rather horrifying experience, but I think that we should not reduce anything. Imagine that we only have to look at it. And right. I'm thinking very often about those who were part of it, part of history.
We're involved in that.
So it's not a big sacrifice.
And when you say that, you say the truth, because I did read about you saying that you were sometimes, you look at children that get to, there's, the tours of the death camps that come from here and their instructors, and that there's a lot of information used that you disagree with when it comes to teaching the Holocaust to Israeli children. What do you mean by that, and how do you do it differently with German?
Well, I think that explaining the Holocaust needs, of course, a lot of knowledge, right. Deep, thorough knowledge, and I think also the way of using your voice. Some add legends. I think the Holocaust needs no legends.
What do you mean add legends?
Big enough.
They amplify the horror?
They exaggerate. They invent stories. They don't have bad intentions, but they do it somehow.
Yeah.
We do not need it. The Holocaust is immense, is horrifying, is tragic for itself. We do not need any additionals. And I'm critical against such phenomena. We do not need them.
The story
and
itself.
Also the way you speak. It's not a melodrama. It is a story. What is history? A story. And I'm trying to moderate the story, to supply it, to teach it, to.
And completely, and as because it's a very different experience, I'm sure, for the children, for German youth as opposed to Israeli youth who get to the, who have like this annual, actually, rite of passage of going to Poland. And then when you get to the German youth, what are the most, you said that there's a lot of knowledge.
Right. May I add one important sentence before I forget it? We have to divide between guilt and responsibility. The young people sitting before me are not guilty. They are not criminals. Maybe their fathers or grandfathers. And I emphasize this fact. And I think it's necessary. It's essential. They are not criminals. They have done nothing wrong to Jews. And
do you
this
believe
division
that the
is
Israeli
important.
society has a hard time letting go?
They bear responsibility for themselves, for Germany, and for the future.
Right. But you stress that, and it's a very valid point. Do you think that in Israel that people lump together the German population as one, guilty party, regardless of your age and your generation?
I would say it was typical for the 50s, right. Late 40s, 50s, 60s. Not anymore. Not anymore. The young generation, the young German generation, has no guilt. Responsibility, it has. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And I tell it to them.
And education-wise, learning about it, I think, is also something, is the responsibility, which, as you do a great job of. Finally, I'm wondering, what are they interested in the most when you come and you present your class? Because I read some of their questions, and it was interesting and fascinating to me to see that they have the same questions that Israeli and Jewish youth have.
Absolutely, a big similarity.
Big similarity.
Almost
of why
the
didn't
same
anybody
questions.
stand up, right?
Passivity. to be active against your tormentors, against your
What
killers.
are the questions that they ask you, for example?
Well, one of them I mentioned in that interview. On the ramp in Auschwitz-Birkenau,
Yeah.
the amount of Jews arriving, 3,000, 4,000, and only 3, 4, or 5, maximum 6 SS men standing in front of them. But this proportion has no meaning at all under the conditions prevailing at that time. And it's hard to understand, to accept
that
nowadays,
thousands of people-
when we have an army where we can defend ourselves. The big tragedy of the Jewish people is the helplessness in that time. They were not able to defend themselves. How to explain it?
No, but
3,000 versus 3 or 4. It's frustrating. You get crazy. You explode. That's history to explain the circumstances, and they were extremely different.
No, it's fascinating because it's the same question that's asked by Israeli youth and classes
Absolutely.
of why was there not more, fighting of that phenomena and whatnot.
In addition, I always tell them that there were very brave Jews who did the uprisings, hundreds of uprisings in ghettos, not only the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. There were hundreds.
Yeah.
And most importantly, 3 uprisings in the extermination camps. Treblinka, August 2nd, 43, 2 months later in Sobibor, and October 44 in Auschwitz-Birkenau. 3 uprisings.
No, which also is something that's it sometimes drowns in history because of the mass.
There was Jewish bravery in the
Jewish
Holocaust
bravery.
and a lot of helplessness because the Jews had no rifles, no guns.
Professor Greif, this is fascinating. I would go on, but this has been going on for how many years? Just wondering. You're
13, 14
13,
even.
14 years.
And over 150 German listeners were present in my lectures.
Right.
And I hope I will reach much more.
A much
in the
bigger
future.
audience.
Absolutely.
No. Very important effort, very important educating effort. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
We're going to something completely different. I know, Yasmin. Professor Greif, you are locked with us in the studio, but this is going to lighten up your very important effort. This is the web review. Yasmin, I'm putting you in a position of, take that right after Holocaust education. And bring us the lowest points of the web.
Incredibly unimportant,
trivial stuff that one needs in life. I think the professor will agree. Yes.
So obviously, as we know, yesterday was April Fool's Day, and I just did a little roundup of some of the stories that stood out from the web that were later proved to be false. I mean, some of these are obviously April Fool's stories,
Clearly.
and others actually made me look twice.
Because you thought they might have been true.
I thought they could be true. So this was quite a popular one yesterday in the Mirror. This is the farmer managed to produce lambs with 6 legs.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, no, so basically...
You did not fall for
I
this
didn't
one.
fall for this, but the way, it's kind of going, this happened accidentally, and we're going to breathe
I know, that there's this thing,
badly
we live in an
photoshopped
age
lamb.
where, women have their bodies reduced to Twinkies on, and with Photoshop, and you fell for this.
Yes, it's true.
Okay,
I didn't say I fell for it.
It was cute, yes.
Yeah, I like there was a nice little quote from the farmer saying their 6 legs have made them fitter and leaner, and we expect their meat to be extra succulent.
Oh, God.
Yeah, horrible.
Horrible, yes.
Okay, so moving on.
Not for the vegetarians in the
Not for the
audience.
vegetarians.
Yes, and?
Okay, so next story is also England-based. This is from The Independent. At the moment, there's going to be there's a lot of discussion over Scotland and the rest of the UK seeking independence. So they're saying there's going to be a UN peacekeeping plans drawn up in the event of a Scottish yes vote to help patrol the border.
I'm laughing out loud.
Yes.
I don't think there's any kind of danger.
No. I love this though. They're saying one scenario being taken seriously is pre-arranged face-offs modelled on the film Braveheart between rival militias who could travel to towns such as Gretna Green and Berwick-upon-Tweed for weekend
Maybe they could
showdowns.
throw their skirt, their kilts at us.
It could be,
But yeah.
It could be brutal.
The fact that the UN does need something to do.
Yes, they're thinking about drones to monitor Hadrian's Wall.
You're kidding, right?
No, yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, because I felt that.
Now, this next one's actually pretty cute. This is on the National Trust website. And this actually, I reckon, this didn't fool me, but I reckon for a split second it could fool some people.
Right.
So they're saying that because of the clocks going forward, they're resetting the stone circle. So this is a twice yearly event. They want the stone circle to be keeping
in line with
yes. So they have to move these massive stones. It's a massive effort.
Yeah. I would have completely fallen for that, I have to say. But thank God you're British.
Next one is also actually semi-realistic. This is a really cute story, again in the Mirror, about North Korea. This is One Direction banned from entering North Korea unless they get their hair cut.
Like Kim Jong-un?
Yes. Following, I think it was last week's reports about the fact that
don't they already have his haircut?
No, well, I think they have kind of different styles. I have to say, I'm like, different styles. See what I did there? I do. Unintentional. That pun is almost as bad as one in this actual story where it says that Kim Jong is going to launch a X Factor style competition to find his own band dubbed Undirection. So bad. So bad.
No, incredibly so. No, but hold on, I just want to pause on this and wonder because I just realized, One Direction, they're huge, right? That's one of the...
Apparently, yeah. I don't know if I've ever heard of One Direction.
I heard about them only because of a niece of mine about 6 months ago. They're humongous. They're like...
I literally don't know anything about them. I know there's one person called Harry Styles.
You're old, honey. You're old.
I know.
Old. Yes, I know. But the fact that
they're like the Take That of this generation.
Was there even a concert planned in North Korea?
No.
No,
it just seems like it could be a realistic story. As the next one, actually. The next one is in The Guardian.
Okay.
And this is about being able to transform your view with a permanent Instagram filter. So this is actually a filter you can put over the window. Normally,
so it's a window transform your
view.
You
stick it on the window. You have different filters. I think it would be better if you could actually change it via computer. So instead of seeing like urban decay, you can see a nice sunny view.
This is an April Fool's story.
This is an April Fool's story, but this actually could, I think it could be real.
This makes complete sense because, first of all, I think that's something that would sell immensely.
Yep.
This is, if we were talking about April Fool's Day, this fact you'd be lying to yourself constantly. And that the view is much nicer from the window than, okay, terrifying. But in all the things that you looked at, other than, and this, by the way, I would have completely fallen in for. Because this is something they'll come up with, right?
I reckon they might do it.
Eventually.
Yeah, in the future. I mean, why not? You could have screens instead of windows. A touch of a button, you change the view. It's very realistic.
Very, very, very
Why would
realistic.
you have reality?
And
it's raining out there.
It's raining out there. It's now
there's
sunny
birds
and shiny.
pooing on the pavement.
And maybe, anybody living in the Middle East, we could put like a little, peace in the Middle East and everybody hugging each other filter, and there we have it. From all the outlandish things that you saw out there, yesterday, was there something that really stuck out, that was really like completely insane, or?
No, it was the same as, nothing stood out in terms of, I don't think there's going to be an instant classic. Like there was a famous BBC report years ago about the spaghetti tree. Which people actually believed in. The spaghetti
tree?
Yeah, spaghetti grows on trees. It even told you how to plant your spaghetti tree, to cultivate it.
Yeah, that really does explain why we need a lot of education.
Yes.
A lot of education. Such as
education.
Professor Greif, actually, that maybe can travel the world and explain to people what is real and what is not. Terrifying stuff out there. Yasmin K, always a pleasure to have you here.
I have another little story, if we have time.
Please.
My dad's going to be embarrassed by this, but he refuses to eat aubergine, okay? Because aubergine, as you know, in America is called eggplant. And when he was a little kid, he planted an egg, and his parents encouraged him to water it. So it would grow into an eggplant, and they found it hilarious.
This is the Yasmin K drinking hour.
Yeah, so basically he was heartbroken, and as a result, he cannot look an eggplant in the face. He can't deal with it.
We're going to leave you on that, honey.
Eggplant,
My God.
spaghetti tree.
That's the one. When we get back, the king of pop, Michael Jackson. Not alive, but his new album is out. First, though, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. She'll have the Shamkan. With clam sauce. Good morning. I-24 News Morning Edition, where you should be, and I'm going to tell you why. Because finally, he's back. We've waited and waited and waited. I'm going to embarrass you and suck up galore.
Go for it.
Completely. Yaron Brink, he's the chief editor of The Tube. One of my favorite people. I say that to everybody. But still, thank you for being with us, because you've got some exciting stuff for us.
It's my favorite place to be in. I say that to everybody, too.
I know. After this schmooze fest, Gabi, yes, and Gabi Tartakovsky is with us as well for the next segment, just so everybody, knows everybody. Shoot.
Well, I've got quite a lot for you today.
Iranians.
Let's start with Iranians.
Please.
Yeah. It's quite a story. A video made by an Iranian production company. Very simple and kind of has some viral potential. They just ask people in Tehran, what do they want for the holiday? Like, what gift?
What gift? And we have that video.
We have that
so
video.
Let's take a look.
چی عیدی بگیرم؟ عیدی دوست داره عیدی چی بگیری شما؟ اکی سوال خیلی سخته والا هر چی بهم بده چی بگیری؟
چی بگیری؟
سلامتی
سلامتی رهبرمون
نمیدونم یه کادوی خیلی خاص یه نفر خیلی خاص
پول ندارم دارم خود چیز برنده باشم مثلا یه ویلای شمالی نمیدونم یه چیز اینجوری
پسرم شاهین میاد خوشحالم میکنه.
دوست دارم بچه‌ام کتاب بهم بدن. من دوست داشتم با انتقالیم به دانشگاه تهران موافقت کنم. یه دونه ماشین خیلی خوب با یه سویچ خونه. یه بلیط که باش برم مثلا یه مسافرت. سویچ ماشین با یه کلید خونه. یکاش میشه سربازی نرم. هرچی از دوست قصد نیکن. اونی که دارم این براشون گل میبرم.
I love this. You said when this was rolling that it's amazing how much that it looks. First of all, it looks like Tel Aviv.
Yeah. The background kind of you could
easily think, yeah.
And the interesting story about this video is that an Israeli organization called Tetal, which is basically Tehran, Haifa, Tel Aviv, took it and translated it to Hebrew with subtitles and is now spreading it via the web to Israelis. And the idea behind the organization is interesting because it kind of aims to show people in Tehran and in Tel Aviv how the other side lives. And it doesn't try to tidy things up and make it pretty. It just, and it doesn't even go into politics. It's just about people.
No, it's a valid point. It doesn't try to tidy it up, but it also, it shows the real thing, and it's also not that, I gotta say this to somebody living in this country, it's not that monstrous.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not
it's very human, and you
bingo.
can easily connect. I mean, that guy saying, I don't want to go to the army, you could easily find a guy like that here in Tel Aviv that looks the same, wears the same clothes.
Says the same thing, the mother that wants the son to come visit her.
Yeah, and also, people who go, we wish health to our leader, you'll get that here too.
Exactly.
So I think it's really interesting. It's when the internet started like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, people thought it will make barriers fall. So that didn't happen. But you still see some.
Some of them actually were brought up.
Yeah, exactly. We still see some of those places where it can happen and maybe should happen.
No, very true. And it's like the original aim of it. And No, a wonderful, wonderful thing to watch.
Yeah.
Okay. That's like one of the most optimistic things I've heard this morning. What else? Bring me down.
Another optimistic story is we're probably going to get a competitor to YouTube. Yahoo, Marissa Mayer. They're aiming high.
Okay.
Listen, since Marissa Mayer took over Yahoo as CEO, she bought almost 30 startups, among which Tumblr, and they kind of pumped up Flickr, which was a very popular service in the past.
At the time, yeah.
And they're kind of building themselves back into the position of, like an internet empire. And one of the ways to go is to fight the big guys. And YouTube hasn't had serious competition in
I was about
years.
to say, but isn't this a little bit like Napoleon trying to conquer Russia in the winter? Haven't people tried this before and failed?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people tried, but none of them had the financial strengths and means that Yahoo has. They are now courting YouTube stars to kind of switch to their planned network of video streaming.
Right.
And they're also going to buy a big news video streaming service called NDN, which is the number 5 news source on the internet. So I think, that's kind of very cool.
It's very cool because competition's a good thing.
It's good for us, and I think YouTube is just too big, too strong, and it's the only thing out there, and that makes absolutely no sense.
No, completely. I mean, the other thing that came up to mind was Google. But yeah, next in line.
Who owns YouTube?
Google. Aha, right, I forget. What is it going to be called? Yahoo?
YouTube?
Yahoo.
I don't know. But
I
think it will be interesting to see which way they go with it, if they're going to be an exact replica or they're going to try to be more news-oriented. I don't know. But I think the potential is huge. A lot of people, a lot of users dislike YouTube for many reasons. A lot of the channel operators inside YouTube are kind of pissed at the financial agreements between YouTube and its providers. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, fascinating to watch.
Yep.
And what else?
And last but really not least, we have this amazing viral phenomenon that we've stumbled onto this week at the Tube. It's this guy, he works at DreamWorks, he's an animator. He has a baby kid, like 3 years old or something like that.
Right.
And he made him into an action hero. It's like home videos such as this one.
Right.
And the kid is just playing, and then. Oh. Yeah, look at that.
Oh, come on.
Look at that. Isn't that so cool? And now look at that. Look at that.
Okay.
Oh, poor kid.
Oh my God. Brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, hold on.
As you
I'm
can
getting
see, he's
so
just
many
a
ideas.
very, very good animator. He's
incredible.
And away we go. Yeah, the McDonald's playground just got much better. And you don't want to piss that kid.
No!
That would happen.
Brilliant!
Yeah. And he's fearless.
No, he's fearless, but the thing is, this must have been going psycho around the world. Oh my God, no, that's Freddy Krueger. Wait.
And
you know what the danger with this is? That other people's 3-year-olds, and you can relate probably, will look at that and go, Daddy!
I've actually shown that to my kid.
Yeah, she probably thinks you suck.
And he's seriously suck.
He's like, look at that dad and what he's doing for his kid.
Yeah, no, but he's kind of perplexed. Why can't he do it himself?
Exactly.
Like, he doesn't get the effect part of it.
And then, taking him down to the playground and going, no, just swing.
And I tried to tell him, I tried to tell him it's not real. And he goes, of course it's real.
It's on the internet. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
If it's on the internet, it's real.
It's real. I'm going to have to borrow the internet at home. Good luck on that one. Yaron, such a great pleasure to have you here, and you're locked in studio with us.
Yeah, I'll stay here.
You're going to come again. I'll hold you to it. You've heard it here. And then, again, don't forget to watch The Tube tonight, 19:10, that's 7:10 in Middle Eastern Speak, here on I-24 News. We're definitely moving on to Gabi Tartakovsky. I pronounced your name right.
Yes. Next week, we're going to work on your spelling.
Oh, God. Yes. I-24 News culture correspondent, one of my favorite people in the whole world. I say
Thank
to
you.
everybody.
Oh, that's true.
Yes, but take it personally. And what do you have for me?
The king of pop is back. Well, at least Sony wants him back.
But wait, that was so enthused. The king of pop is back. Okay.
Well, yes.
We are speaking of?
We are speaking none other than Michael Jackson, who died almost 5 years ago. And he's a money-making machine, even in death. His estate is worth $145 million. And part of it is...
With the monkey?
With the monkey. His name is Bubbles, if you don't
Bubbles,
mind.
if you don't mind. Call the monkey by his name. Yeah, those Bubbles, yeah.
That's Mr. Bubbles for you.
For me, sorry.
And Sony has signed a deal with the Jackson estate back in 2010 to release 10 more new Michael Jackson albums by 2017.
What do you mean new? How are they going to do that?
They're going to reissue his back catalog, and this next album is going to contain previously unreleased tracks from his original sessions back in 2001.
Wow.
Now,
are those completed, or did they have to do something to it?
Well, they hired Timbaland, which is a very regarded musical producer, to contemporize the sound and to finish the tracks. Now, this is a procedure that has been done to many of my musical heroes, Marvin Gaye, John Lennon, but the thing is that this is really, really exceptional because they have exploited Michael Jackson to the extreme.
Oh God, yeah.
And
they did to him in life.
Yes. And this album, Escape, is going to be just 8 tracks.
Right.
And they're going to issue it as a super deluxe edition for an 8-track album. I think that's an all-time low for the music industry.
I think they shouldn't. Yeah, no, you want to agree. I'm totally with you on that. No, devastating stuff. Yes. I'm horrified. What else?
He would have hated it, by the way, because he was
a
real perfectionist.
Exactly.
Now for something that might actually
different. Okay.
I'm sorry?
Completely different. Yes.
Yes. Now for something that might actually worth your money. The annual Israel Festival. Since 1961, this is the premier showcase of performing arts in Israel. It's an international festival highlighting Israeli acts and international ones. And we have a quick preview of the upcoming event.
Let's take a look.
The annual Israel Festival, hosting special productions from 12 different countries, will put a spotlight this year on Jerusalem's most significant artists and works, past and present. One of them, Israeli Prize laureate Yoram Gaon, is considered a cultural icon of the city.
I was very proud to read in the Israeli papers the 3 icons of Jerusalem, Teddy Kollek, Yitzhak Navon, and me. So, I mean, my place in this trio is a very honorable place.
I'm Jerusalem born and raised, and it's nice to go back to your hometown and participate in something as prestigious and something that puts a real emphasis on culture and art and not just selling tickets.
Opening in May for 3 weeks in venues throughout Jerusalem, the festival will also host 2 international icons of stage and screen, Gérard Depardieu and Anouk Aimée, with the play Love Letters marking Depardieu's first stage performance since 2004.
They're going to perform twice in Jerusalem as well, and it's going to be like a firework for this collaboration with the Israeli festival.
Hofe Schechter's international dance company will be arriving to Israel for the first time from the UK. From Georgia, the State Drama Theatre of Tbilisi will perform Moliere's Tartuffe, and Italy's pianist Maurizio Bellini will be contributing to the classical music section.
The Israel Festival is, I would say, internationally the most prestigious festival in Israel. I think it's a common knowledge, and many musicians and groups and orchestras are knocking on our doors.
When I started 20 years ago to work with the festival, sometimes we had to chase people to come to the festival. There were people who were afraid to come. Now that the world is dangerous all over and the people are being checked in all airports, not only in Tel Aviv airport, so it became much easier.
Politics are also set aside in this event, with so far no bans from international artists, culminating in a massive bid farewell for who was considered Israel's national singer Arik Einstein, who passed away last November. The festival continues to try and catch the attention of both domestic and global audiences, highlighting an atmosphere of art and culture in the conflict-ridden region.
Yes, I'm glad the world is dangerous all over. And now everybody can come to Israel because it's as dangerous as every other place.
Absolutely. And you know what's more dangerous? Classical music. And this year's Israel Festival has a full-scale classical music concerts.
Right.
It's more than the jazz concerts. It's more than the theater shows. So if you're into the Baroque era, you're in for a treat. If you're looking for something a bit more contemporary, I hear that a young group, the Rolling Stones, are on their way as well to Israel. So you can have a perfectly...
If you have $1,000, you can go see them. Yes, my God. Okay, I don't know, Baroque, Rolling Stones, such tough choices in life. Yes, and one really quickly thing, we've got something about Tom Waits.
Yes.
We'll go to Tom Waits.
We'll go to Tom Waits. The legend.
The legend, the man.
The troubadour. The drifter.
Right.
Finally has his music agent for the first time in 20 years. He finally decided that it's time for someone like William Morris Agency, which is no peanuts at all, to represent him in all of his activities, whether it's in film. You know, he's a very talented actor as well.
Yes. No, but I find it depressing, I gotta tell you.
Well,
I mean, everybody does need an agent ultimately, eventually, but isn't he like the troubadour?
Yeah, and you know what? I have a good advice for the William Morris Agency, if I may say so.
Yes.
I saw Tom Waits a few years ago. He's a brilliant comedian. No one delivers one-liners like Tom Waits. He should be a comedian. Forget about the music.
You've heard it here first from Gabi. Please, take heed. And that's it for us this morning. Visit us on the web or on our Facebook page, I24 News. Don't forget to join us tomorrow to start your day as you should be doing every single day, because we're watching. Thank you.